Good afternoon. I'm very
Hey,
happy today to welcome Juliette Jeffers. She's an actress. She had done television, films, and sitcoms as well, soap operas, and she's just returned from Cannes and presented her short film debut as a writer-director. How are you, Juliette?
I'm excellent. How are you?
Yes, I'm very happy to welcome you this afternoon. I am curious, about your early beginning. How did you get interested into the art, and how did you get the first break, into television and cinema?
So I've always wanted to be in the entertainment industry since I was a little child, and I went to the High School of Performing Arts. I don't know if you're familiar with a film called Fame, and then it turned into a
Yes,
TV show. And so I went to the school that the movie was based on. So I acted as a kid. I danced. I didn't get the singing trait for some reason or another. I
yes,
did, but both my mom and my dad sang, and
yes,
I love to sing, but I don't think people love to hear me sing. So I didn't get that talent, but but I love to act and dance, and that's what I did growing up. And so when I went to the High School of Performing Arts, I knew for sure that it was something that I wanted to do for a living. And I went to college so that I could have something to fall back on. So I studied languages. And as soon
yes,
as I graduated college, I went off to LA because I grew up in New York City. Um,
yes.
I went off to LA and then just started my career from there.
Yes. Tell me, what was your first step, in LA, finding an agent, trying to get into casting call? How did it start?
So back when I started out, it was in the early 90s. And that at that time you could actually send, you mail headshots and resumes to agents. And when I first moved out to LA, I sent out about 20, 25 headshots. And these numbers were really great at the time. I had 7 interviews. I had 7 calls from the 25 headshots that I sent out. And so I interviewed with agents, and then I picked one, and that's how it started. It was pretty, it was a friend of mine actually who referred me to this particular agency, and so they wanted to sign me, and I wanted to sign with them, and then I started working. I did commercials, but also some of the first shows that I did in the early 90s were 21 Jump Street, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Martin, Murder She Wrote, etc., etc. So that was my beginning.
I see as well, you appeared in The Young and the Restless, Dream On, very, very popular show in the 90s, right?
Yes, yes. So yes, I did one episode of each show of Young and the Restless. I did an episode of that, and Dream On was a fun show to be on, because it's a comedy, so my character was a little quirky, and so that was fun to play.
And many shows were very popular as well. You appeared in Sheena, you appeared in many shows of the 90s, very, very popular shows. I mean, Silk Stockings and Murder She Wrote, these were very big things at the moment, right?
Yes, yes. Silk
Mhm.
Stockings. I was on it for 2 seasons, and I
Yes,
did, um, I think maybe 7 episodes between the 2 seasons, I believe, something like that. Um, I played a medical examiner, and of course that show Silk Stockings was, was all about. There was a crime and there was a sex scene. That's what it was all about, right? And
yes,
so that was a fun. And I even though we shot it in Miami. I mean, I'm sorry, we shot it
yes,
in San Diego, but it takes place in Miami, so it was very
yes,
colorful, and so that was a fun show to work on as well.
yes. Yeah, tell me, how did you see the industry changed from the 90s until now as a performer? What can you tell me?
Yeah, so it's changed a lot. Specifically right now, what's happening is there are a lot more opportunities for actors to create their own content. And so back then, it didn't even seem like something that we can do. I mean, of course, people did it, but I think back then we sort of thought that, oh, I need to have a lot of money to do this, or I need to get permission from someone else to do this. But now, especially having a cell phone, because you can shoot a movie on a cell phone, right? And so there's more, and the business kind of, it always, it goes up and down. And so when things are slow now, because of all the resources that we have, we can actually write a script, gather a crew, shoot something, and that way you feel like you are taking ownership of your career. You are taking your career into your own hands and staying productive, because that's, for me, being a creative, that's what I do.
Yes.
I'm always creating, always staying busy in that realm. And so when things are slow, I start to create my own stuff.
Yes, I see as well. Speaking of writing your own stuff, before the short film you presented in Cannes last month, I want to ask you about your plays. You realize some plays as well and did some solo performances beside your work in film and television.
Right. Yeah. So that was another sort of extension of me not sitting around waiting for the phone to ring, you know? And so when things were slow, I said, okay, what can I create? And my very first play, one woman play, is called Batman and Robin in the Boogie Down. And, and it's about my brother and I growing up. So it's, out of all my 5 one-woman shows, this is the one that's the most autobiographical. And and so I knew, I had desires to do a one-woman show prior to that, but I didn't really know what it was going to be about. And I lost my brother, unfortunately, back in 1996, and I was going to therapy around it. And I had an exercise from my therapist to write a letter to my brother every day, because it was tough to go through that. Write a letter to him every day for a month. And at the end of the month, I tell him that I forgive him for leaving. And I remember that at the end of the month, I was like, I'm not ready yet. I'm still angry. Because it was a sudden death. And so I was talking to my writing mentor, Reggie Rock Bythewood, and he's the one who suggested that I do my show about my brother, and I'm so glad that I did, because it's the one, the show that's the most dear to my heart, because of course it's, the subject matter. But that's how it started. And then once I did one, it was easy for me to then just do others, because that's I love that solo show world and the theater world.
Yes, and I see that you have, beside your work as a writer and performer and right now director, and of course, you try to work, to help, the entertainment and film industry, as an activist, as very active in that as well.
Yeah, well, I think that for the most part, when I think about, my work as an actor, uh, one of the things that happens is, and I say as an artist because it covers everything, is when I'm going through something emotionally, when something affects me, my way to work through it, one of the ways, is to create. So I write about it, whether it's writing poetry or writing or just journaling. Um, but in the particular case of my third one woman show, um, it's called Judgment Day, and that would be, out of all my pieces, the most that's sort of like in that activist artivist kind of world, where the week that Philando Castile and Alton Sterling were murdered by the police here in the United States, um, that was so, I had so many emotions. I was angry, I was hurt, I was disappointed in our system, um, and so I started writing, and that particular one woman play is deals with um, all the injustices that have happened to Black people, Black and brown people over the years, not only in the States but all over the world. So that's where that came up. And I also work with solo show artists, helping them to create their own solo shows. So when I'm working with them, I encourage them to, when they're thinking about what they're going to write about, I say, well, what's important to you? What really matters to you? What are you passionate about? And so sometimes it's something really personal, and sometimes it's something, political, social. And so I just encourage people to work through whatever they're going on, whatever they're going through, work that out in their art. And by doing that, you not only heal yourself, but you can start to heal others, and start to allow others to really, think about things in a different way, and perhaps move them to action.
I see recently you co-starred in many important shows like Tulsa King. So tell me about your character, and also did you work in the first or the second season?
So I worked on the first, the second, and the third season. My character, her name is Angie, and she is the mother of Tyson, one of the main characters in the show. He plays Stallone's driver. And now, of course, as the seasons have progressed, he has become more involved in Stallone's business.
The mafioso business.
Yes, yeah, that. So, do you watch the show, by the way?
Yes, yes. I
Uh-huh.
saw, my generation is a big fan of Sylvester Stallone.
Yes.
And 5 years ago, we invited him to my country, Egypt, to El Guna Festival,
Mhm.
So he made an appearance in the opening, and of course, I love Stallone, and it was his first show, he never did television series before, okay? But the show became very evolving, and I liked very much that they started to bring a lot of important actors as well, as like Sam Jackson as well.
Right.
Recently. And I think the performances are quite great. Either the people who are playing, the mafiosos in New York, or even in Tulsa itself, and around it.
Yeah. What I love about the show is that, um, so I got in the beginning of the season. Well, not the season, but the actual show. So the first
Yeah.
season, and so I was watching, of course, watching every episode, and I was really impressed with Stallone's work as an actor, because this is a different role for him. I mean, yes, it's the tough guy and all that, but then he shows another side. You see his vulnerability, and we don't get to see that a lot in his work. And so I was like, oh, look at him, so really, really impressed. And of course, it was great to work with him because he's a
For
legend.
sure. Yes.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, when did you start to think you would like to write a film and direct it? And tell me about the premise of the film you presented in Cannes. It's called Pan Gyul, right?
Pan Gyul. So
Yeah.
it's a Caribbean twang that you put on the word girl. So it's basically Pan Girl, but Pan Gyul is how we say
Yes.
it. And
Yes.
and so that was originally a solo show, one of my theater pieces, and I decided to turn it into a film, a short film. And I was
Yes.
inspired. I was inspired to do it specifically because the year prior to shooting the film, I shot the film
Yes.
last year in 2024. The year prior, I was in Nevis, which is where my family's from, in St. Kitts and Nevis in the Caribbean, and
Yes.
I had been working with the film commission, the government, to help them build their film industry. And so I started by teaching a couple of acting classes there, so that,
Mhm.
because the year prior to that, I believe it was 2021 or 2022, when a production company from the UK went to Nevis. It's called MSR. They went to Nevis and they shot a bunch of films there. And before that, there were really no professional companies coming in to shoot there. So the Nevis government was like, oh, this is interesting. This might be something we want to pursue more. And so I thought, well, if more production companies are going to come in to the island,
Yes.
I want my people to be ready. I want them to learn as much about acting as possible so that they can get into these films and have prominent roles in the films. And so, so it started off with me teaching acting. And then when I did that in 2024, I just said, you know what, I want to shoot a short film next year. So I gave
Yes.
myself a little goal. And instead of reinventing the wheel, so to speak, I just thought, well, I already have a story that I
Yes.
think would be perfect. Let me just turn this into a film. So that's how that started.
Yes.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about the premise of the film, the story.
Yeah. So it is about a little girl who plays the steel pan drum. And so, are you familiar with that instrument, the steel pan drum?
Maybe it was African.
It actually originated in Trinidad and Tobago. And
Yes.
it's very, if you think of an island, a Caribbean island, it's always sort of like you'll hear that music in the background. It's very
Sure.
soothing. And
Yes.
so
While people are fishing
oh, I mean, yes, that'll work.
everywhere.
That'll work while they're
Yes.
fishing,
Yes.
or dancing in the streets. If you
Yes.
think about carnival music, steel pan drums are played a lot during carnival music, right? Carnival season. And so that's the steel pan drum. And traditionally, especially, when it first started out in the 50s, women weren't allowed to play the steel pan drum. So
Yes.
they had to sneak around to get lessons if they wanted to, but it really wasn't allowed. And
Yes.
so, and now a lot more women and little girls are playing, but this particular story is about a girl who's, her mother is against her playing. So she
Mhm.
does actually sneak around to get lessons. And her father plays as well. Her father's a professional steel pan drummer, so she wants to be able to connect with her father through the music like her brothers do.
Mhm.
So so it just kind of tells that story and her struggles to get what she wants.
Yes. Yesterday, um my wife was watching yesterday a film, um, and uh, I wanted to ask you, uh, this film, do you think could be adapted into a feature film in the future?
My film. So wait, you were saying that your wife was looking at my film?
I was watching The Warrior Queen, The Warrior King, yesterday with
Oh yes,
Viola Davis.
yes,
Hmm.
yes, yes. I love that film.
Yeah, and it's a very good film, because it's about growing up in an African country,
Hmm.
and facing, the differences between men and women, of course, at a certain time, And when you started to tell me about your film, I remember the premise of this film, because I work for my country, Egypt, and Luxor African Film Festival
Hmm.
as well.
Hmm.
And I wanted to know because the story you mentioned could be, I think, adapted into a feature film.
Absolutely. That is the plan. That is the plan.
Yes.
I'm going to start working on writing the feature. I already have it in my head, of how
Yes.
it's going to expand, but
Uh-huh.
I'm going to start writing it, and the intention is, and so that was my plan
Sure.
all along. But I
Mhm.
wanted to start out with a short film, especially being a first time director. I want to start out with a short film, and also
Mhm.
to put it on budget. And then now I'm taking it through the film festival circuit, creating
Mhm.
awareness, and
Sure.
then I will thinking positively, get funding for the feature film and go right back to Nevis and shoot that version. So that is the
Yes.
plan.
Yes. Tell me, how was it for you to work behind the camera for this film?
You know, on the one hand, because I've directed a lot of theater.
Yes.
Um, I have the experience of directing actors already, so that part was, like piece of cake, no problem, right? But adjusting to doing it in a film capacity, but also just seeing things a little bit more visually, in film, than you would in theater. It was a little bit of
And
a
the
jump.
technicality as well, of course. And
Sorry?
the
The
technicality
technicality.
about the camera, the lens,
Yes,
how the actors are moving in front of the frames as well. I think this is something different than theater.
of course, it's very different. And so I think, so that combined with the fact that as an actor, I'd been working in film and TV for many years. And so just being on set, I got a good sense of, of how it all works. I'm observant. I'm watching the directors as I work and just seeing how things go. So I did have that sensibility as well. But the thing that really helped was that I had a great team around me. So I had a great assistant director, a cinematographer, the producers that I worked with. They all sort of helped me through it, and showed me the ropes. And so I learned so much. It was kind of like on the job training. Of course, I did my research beforehand, but I learned a lot as I was going through that process, and I actually loved it. I loved it. So that's, so now I have, besides doing the feature version of Pan Girl, there are other stories that I want to tell and that I want to direct. So it's nice to step into onto the other side.
Yes. I would like to ask you, do you have a dream project or a dream character you would like to realize in the future?
Mm. Wow, that's a good question. Right now, the thing that's current for me is, as I mentioned, the other film projects that I want to direct. I would say, let's see, one, two, there are about three projects that I actually would like to be in as well as an actor. It's challenging. So maybe I won't for all of them, because maybe I might want to just focus on directing alone. But so those are the things that are like on my mind right now in terms of what I'm going to do next. But like in an ideal world, right? If someone said to me, I'm going to hand you a film role, and and it's anything you want. I, you know, Number one, I've always wanted to play an action hero. I
Yes.
mean, I'll be a little bit more of a mature action hero now, but I've always wanted to play an action hero. But I also love, I would love to dive into a biopic, to play somebody else,
Mhm.
that would be interesting for me. And, just roles that are really multi-dimensional, you
Yes.
know. I just love I've always loved to play different characters and step into
Yes.
roles that are even like furthest from me. So that
Yeah.
would be fun to do, just a character that is nothing like myself, and really, dive into creating a great portrait of a character.
I hope so. This is great. I want to thank you very, very much for coming to the live, and congratulations for the film.
Thank you.
I look forward for its feature version, and I hope you can submit it to Luxor African Film Festival next year. I'm gonna try to send you the link
Yes.
when the call for submission start next year.
Hmm.
And I look forward for your next projects as a writer and director as well. And I wish you all the best as well in your television and film work as well as an
Thank you
actress.
so much. This was such a pleasure. And I've never been to Egypt, and I've always wanted to go. So
No,
going
you
with a
should
film would be lovely.
you should go. We invited very great artists from the States and from Africa, and even Danny Glover. We invited him 2 times.
Hmm.
He likes to do films in Africa, so we invited him with Flora Gomez from Guinea-Bissau. And it was the opening, you know, we do the opening in the temples, so it will be a great experience.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you very much, Juliette. Enjoy the evening, and I look forward to have you again when you have a new project.
All right, thank you so much. Take care.
Bye. Thank you.